This video has the topic 6.13 using the reference variable as parameters. A reference variable is a special type of variable that allows access to another variable. Before we go further, I want to talk about the needs of the reference variable. Let's think of the answer for the following quick question. How could the function send the changed value to the caller? The usual way is to return the changed value to the caller function. How we can send two or more changed value to the caller function? The answer is using the reference variables. Let's make an example why we need the reference variables. I'm going to make a function, the value check with two initial parameters. After sending two values to the function will change those values. I'm going to compile and run this program and check the results. The second line in the output was printed in the main function. These values were changed 1000 and 2000 in the function. These changed value cannot affect to the main function. And now let's make some change in function prototype and function header. I'm going to use the new operator, that is the ampersand operator, and then let's compile and run this program. Now we can find the changed result in the main function. We call this type of variable as a reference variable. Now let's take a look at the concept of reference variable. A reference variable is declared with the operator, the ampersand notation. At this time, the reference variable has the pointer to the variable num as a value. Hence, now we can access the variable num by using the reference variable. Now we try to change the value of a variable num by using the reference variable as marked the number 2. When we try to assign the value 20 to the reference variable, first find the contents of a variable reference and then move to the memory space by using the value num. And then third step, assign 20 to that memory space inside of variable num. It means that the variable num has the value 20. When we print out the two variables num and ref, we can see the same value as 20. Let's take a look at some rules of reference variable. The first rule, a reference variable must be initialized to refer one object when it is created. The object can be variable, a structure, and any other user-defined object. In this example, when we declare the reference variable without initialization, it causes an error. The second rule, a reference variable must be connected to the rigor, the memory space. It cannot have null reference. And the last rule, once a reference variable is initialized to an object, the reference cannot be changed to refer to another object. In this example, the third line doesn't mean the change of reference to the number 1. It means that it tries to change the value of number 1 as the value of number 2 with the reference variable. Now take a look at an example how we use a reference variable as a parameter. When we pass the value in the call function, the function takes it as a reference variable. The reference parameter stores the memory space for the arguments. Hence, we can access the argument position with the parameter name. When we take the user input with the parameter, the name n, if we assume the user input is 20, 20 will be stored in the memory space of variable num in main function. Normally, we use two ways when we pass the values to the functions. If we want to take back the changed value from the function, we should call the function with the passed by reference. Otherwise, the copied value of argument is passed into the parameter value. We call it the passed by value. Now we are going to make an example to use the reference variable as parameters. Before we make the function examples, I will give you some tips to swap two values. Let's move to the code studio. Now let's make two integer variables, the num1 and num2, and then we try to swap two values. How can we swap two values, num1 and num2? So what about these two lines? After these two lines, if we print out these values, what values will be expected to print? At line 12, the variable number 1 has the value of variable number 2. Hence, at this moment, line 12, the variable number 1 and number 2 has the value 20. And then, at line 13, the variable number 2 has the value of variable number 1. So at this moment, at line 13, both variable number 1 and number 2 has the value number 20. So at line 14, if we print out two values, we can see the 20 and 20. In conclusion, this code doesn't work for swapping two values. So I'm going to rewrite the code to swap two values. We need one temporary variable to swap two values. And then we need to keep one of the two values in the temporary variable. So I will keep the value number 1 in the temporary variable, and then the value of number 2 will be assigned to the number 1. And then the final step, the value of temporary variable will be assigned to the variable number 2. And then if we print out two values, we can see the changed value 20 and 10. Now let's make this swap code as a function. We need to declare the function prototype. The function name is swap value 1, and we will use two integer parameters. And then here I will declare the function heading, okay, and the print statement placed in the main function. And then I'm going to change the variable name as a parameter name. After the function at line 14, if we print the values num1 and num2, so what values do you expect here? Can we expect the changed value 20 and 10? Or we can see the original value 10 and 20. Here is one thing we have to fix it. Temporary variable must be declared inside the function. And I'm going to make another version of swap values. So it is the same previous one, except the parameter list. In this function swap value 2, I will use the reference variable as a parameter. So I need to declare in function prototype as a reference variable. And now let's make an example code and check out your result and which function works fine for swapping values. And now let's make a second example program. In this example, we are going to make a function for taking the user input. I'm going to make a source code for this example. Let's move the code studio. I'm going to make a function to take user input with the reference variables. So the function name is getUserInput. And here I will declare the function prototype with the two reference initial variables. And then here we declare the function body and function heading. Okay, that's it. So now let's make the exercise 6.13.2 and then compile and check out your results.